Eversource customers in Springfield have less now than a month to decide if they want to take part in a new program that could potentially save money on their energy bills. Western Mass News getting answers from city officials who are addressing people's concerns over this program. Western Mass News reporter Matt Price is live in Springfield with more. Matt.
Yeah, Chris, at the end of my report yesterday, I mentioned the Community Choice Power Supply Program. A couple of customers telling us they are not thrilled about how they were approached about this and the uncertainties the program raises.
It is hard to keep up with. At times, my bill fluctuates. Sometimes it's really high. It is hard.
Lifelong Springfield resident Tania Eddington asked us not to show her face on camera. She says she's been an Eversource customer for nearly 20 years and is concerned about high electric rates. However, the city of Springfield currently has an alternative on the table, the Community Choice Power Supply Program. Here's how it works. First Point Power and Colonial Power Group will combine the purchasing power of the city's residents and businesses. It only affects the supply portion of the monthly bill, while Eversource would still be the deliverer. First Point will then provide the electric power supply for all consumers who are right now on basic service in Springfield. All Eversource customers are automatically enrolled in this program, but they have time to opt out. Eddington, though, tells Western Mass News she believes there should have been a plain opt-in option while the Springfield customers were being notified.
That was the wrong way to go about it, because you should give people the choice up front instead of them having to figure out what date they have to figure to call or opt out or something. You should have to opt in, not be unwillingly put into a program.
However, the city of Springfield providing clarification on the opt-out scenario.
The automatic opt-in is both in accordance with Massachusetts regulation for community aggregation and in accordance with the plan that was submitted and approved by the Department of Public Utilities.
Tina Quagliato Sullivan, the city's deputy development officer for housing, community development, and neighborhoods, also tells us the goal is to provide cost stability. There is a contrast between Eversource supply costs and the programs. Current Eversource rates for supply cost more than 0.132 cents per kilowatt hour until the end of January 2026. As for the standard default plan for the program, the cost would be 0.13069 cents per kilowatt hour. That rate would be fixed for 35 months beginning in December. Now, with Eversource's rates changing twice a year, future savings with the city's program are not guaranteed. But Quagliato Sullivan says there is a path forward.
Folks can opt out at any time during the 35-month period. They can opt out and opt back in as many times as they would like, and there are no fees, penalties, or costs from the city associated with opting in and out through that period.
Eddington isn't sure about all of this, saying she plans to gather more insight while there's still time.
I'm definitely going to go seek out and see what my options are and try to make the best decision now that I'm aware of it. And I know there's a bunch of people that I know that aren't even aware of this.
The program is not started officially yet. If you are an Eversource customer here in Springfield and are looking to opt out of the program before the next meter read, you must do so by November 18th. We should also note there are information sessions about this program coming up. To find out where and when, as well as other information about it, you can just go to our website at westernmassnews.com. Reporting live in Springfield, Matt Price, Western Mass News.